In the Collegiate Tri Spotlight today, Chief Sport Development Officer Tim Yount from USA Triathlon.
Thanks. It's so great to be here. Incredible opportunity for what you're building to have me on. I'm really delighted. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, it's always a pleasure, and it's exciting to talk a little bit about NCAA and club triathlon. We're going to talk for just a few minutes here. I know how busy you are, especially around the holiday season. So we just want to dive right in and get started. Could you tell us a little bit about how you're involved in your role now with Collegiate Triathlon with our national governing body?
Yeah, absolutely. I've been really fortunate to have been at the organization for 32 years. And so in 1994, 95 ish, I got a call from a guy named Terry Davis who said, "Hey, we have this incredible event out here in California and would love the opportunity to host a championship of some sort for Collegiate Tri." And so obviously we gave him the license to do that. And that sort of was the precursor of what ended up being, an incredible build for many years. And so that was my first engagement with the sport. Love this part of the sport too, because it's fun, it's high energy, it's exciting. People love to be engaged at the collegiate level. So that kind of dates me a little bit, but certainly speaks to why I still love what I do at the organization, which is this part of our business and many other things for the organization as well.
Anyone who's been in the sport for very long at all has heard you out at the races as a race announcer. If they've been part of Team USA, you've been a huge part of that experience for a lot of athletes as well. So you're well known and loved in the sport, and your impact on collegiate triathlon, though, is what we want to focus on today. How did the NCAA Emerging Sport Initiative begin, and how does it all fit into USA Triathlon's vision moving forward?
Yeah, with the start of the NCAA programming back in 2014, it really became the impetus for us to take a look at this segment of our sport. So when you start thinking about this age spectrum, it's essentially 18 to 23. This is our future. These are the athletes that are hopefully going to be with us forever. Hopefully they'll actually end up raising families that will continue to stay in the sport and whatnot. So from the start of collegiate triathlon back in 1993, 94, 95 to NCAA in 2014, we've been able to really build out some fun and exciting new programming. When you look at Collegiate Tri, it's expanded tremendously over the years. The numbers have gotten to be very favorable. Over 5,000 triathletes of the collegiate age competed at our highest point back in 2011. We had nearly 200 teams. With the NCAA, we're at 41 programs. So when you count those two, Collegiate Club and NCAA Tri, you're talking about 200 programs, and that's a lot. That's a big impact. Every state represented between those two disciplines, and it's really important for us to continue to grow this segment of our sport as well.
The club side took a bit of a hit during the pandemic or during the height of the COVID restrictions, and so some programs haven't quite bounced back yet. What are the numbers on the club side last you saw?
Yeah, it's interesting. You're exactly right. On the collegiate club side, we were at about 132 clubs before the pandemic, and we got down to 60.
Mm.
And I want to really put a lot of praise to Chad Cunningham in our office, who was the rallying point for the organization, who was able to get back to about 110, which is where we are right now. Pretty solid growth in 1 year. And so that was really due to athletes not being necessarily on the college campus trained together. The social aspect of triathlon went away. People lost interest. It was 2 years out, and they started looking at other opportunities and other things they could focus on. So we really had to pull the institution back. We really had to pull the leads back. We had to go back to club sport rec division, say what it would take for us to bring a collegiate club triathlon back to the college campus. And so that was really a focus. On the NCAA side, though, it wasn't that bad. We were able to add 14 programs during the pandemic, and that was pretty significant for us. We've added 6 in this last year. So the pandemic's impact on collegiate club was much different than it has been for NCAA, and we're really fortunate that we're able to now kind of move forward and regain our position, our foothold on where the sport needs to go at this level.
Well, just recently we had one of our most exciting varsity national championships that's ever been contested. Can you speak a little bit to why the varsity side is specifically important to the NGB and where it all fits in. The club obviously serving thousands of student athletes in the vision of club or rec sports on campus. How is varsity speaking to the mission a little bit differently?
Yeah, well, I'll say this, that the profile of the NCAA program is at a much, much higher level. And I'm talking about profile relative to how the NCAA looks at what it is that we're doing, how the student athletes and the parents and the coaches and observers, and this is global around the world, looking at this system of NCAA is pretty amazing. And let me speak to a little bit of the genesis of this, if I can, Bryant. It goes back to 2007, 2008 in our office with two other staff person that I worked with at the time, said that this would be an incredible thing to build. And it was more or less a pipe dream at the time. And we didn't really think it could be built as it was. And so 2014, San Diego convention, it was passed on the floor of the convention by all the ADs at each of the divisional levels. And that started this whole movement. And this movement's been really important. We're part of what we call an emerging sport movement, which is a movement that really supports the growth and impetus behind Title IX and its ability to get more women activated at the collegiate level. And so we're one of 5 current emerging sports right now. And as an emerging sport, we get looked at by a lot of institutions at each of the divisional levels with the idea that we can impact enrollment, that we can impact how student athletes are seeing their collegiate education when they're able to support their passion around competing at this level. There's a lot of other good things too, is when we start talking about scholarships and aid and all the other things that come with NCAA and varsity. It's really important for these student athletes to understand and see that. Now, we don't see full rides, but we see aid given, and aid is given for athletic scholarships, and aid is given for merit in other capacities. It's really important for us to continue to grow the segment of our sport, just like it is collegiate club, because what this will ultimately do is it raises the profile of the sport altogether. When we start showing the world what NCAA looks like when the NCAA takes us over in a few years, it will take on and get another look. It'll be another level, another step that we'll take forward. And that will also help collegiate club at the same time because it raises the profile of the sport and what we're actually doing at this 18 to 23, 24 age level.
In recent years, the club side has added mixed relay, draft legal. So there's a little bit of a burning of some lines for some people in terms of the differences. Can you speak to how each has evolved? There's been some additions. I know that one notable addition was how the varsity race started at nationals this year with box assignments. The evolution of team racing has been pretty remarkable on the varsity side. But the culture and evolution of club also has been pretty obvious. So what type of athlete would each serve at this point as we move forward, as they've evolved a bit?
I think people would be surprised at how talented our collegiate club athletes are. In the early days of NCAA racing, we would invite the collegiate club athlete to race in the same events as our NCAA athletes. And there was one girl named Allie Schwein, I'll never forget her name, out of CU. And she was one that was pretty fast. And she was top 10 at one of our early NCAA events. We had another collegiate club athlete that was top 5 at one of our NCAA events. So the ability for these club athletes to maybe consider going into a varsity racing environment is there. And it's really important for people to know that we're getting faster at the NCAA level, but it's still so new. And it's still such a work in progress for especially Division II and Division III programs, mainly Division I at the collegiate club level. But at the varsity level, it's all the divisions, and they're almost equal in the representation. We have a lot more first-timers, a lot more people that are doing this style of racing for the first time. Maybe they came from a running background and a little bit of swimming, or came from the swimming background, a little bit of running, and maybe they learned how to bike. The collegiate club athletes do that, but they don't do it in the same kind of profile, where they're kind of under a microscope a little bit more around NCAA because they're being looked at, they're being analyzed, they're being assessed by different professionals on those collegiate campuses. I like to look at the varsity level as not being really that much different except by name and things that they're expected to do. when you look at varsity, it's a scholarship and aid that's given at every level. You have a daily training environment, usually led by a coach or coaches. There's name, image, and likeness support that we extend to them. There's training protocols that they have to abide by, such as training hours per week. Rosters are usually much smaller at the NCAA level. The Title IX offset is so critical for a varsity. Whereas at the club level, it is a little bit more social, maybe. It's still a competitive, like I said. They do a standard distance triathlon. They do a draft legal triathlon. They do a mixed relay, as you said. Their season is spring, whereas our main season for NCAA is varsity. They have massive rosters. Brian, that Cal has 150 athletes in their squad. Doesn't impact Title IX. So they each carry a very important part of the sport forward. And what we found is that there are some athletes that would venture into a club environment first and then segue into varsity, even within the same institution, sometimes with the ability to move over to NCAA varsity in case they wanted to transfer to get their master's degree or something like that as a graduate student. So there's a lot that we see that we commingle between the two because they serve a very important part of our sport. And it's part of the collegiate environment that we're trying to support club just as much as varsity, even though some people would say that we spend a lot more time and energy on varsity triathlon.
I think that there's probably a lot of unseen work and sweat equity that's gone into the club side over the years. You don't get 5,000 athletes out at some of those championships back there in the heights of it without a lot of work. So I think that people who know in that regard. I'm curious what you think in terms of the future of club, and let's start with club before we dive into the varsity side. Are there any evolutions that you anticipate seeing on the club side for in the near future?
Well, this is not a game break moment, but one of the things that our new CEO came to me with a couple of weeks ago before our board meeting, she said, "Tim, I like what you and the team have been able to build around NCAA triathlon. I want you to step away from some of the responsibilities we've had you carry for many years and focus on the collegiate club build and the high school build alongside the NCAA stuff and work that you continue to do." So guess what? January 1st, I'm going to have a chance to really spend a lot more time, focus, and energy on the collegiate club side, as I have done, as I just noted, with the NCAA side. So what is in our future? I think we've got a lot of exciting things in our future. One of the things I think is really important is coach match. I believe every club should have a coach because that daily training environment, the ability for these athletes to get better and faster, enjoy their experience more, is done most of the time through a coach. I think the type of racing that we do will continue to evolve. I believe the location for national championships will bring some excitement and high energy. I believe the ability for us to identify new talent, new kinds of athletes at the high school level that want to graduate to the next level is going to be what we're going to see evolve. I see high school triathlon programs being recruitment feeders for collegiate club. I see the varsity programs looking at collegiate clubs that have great success saying, wow, maybe we can start an NCAA varsity program because the club program is so successful. So you can see how this needs to play hand in hand. I wanted to start with the collegiate club level first, with the idea that this is going to be one of our fastest growing segments, if I have anything to say about it.
Now that the NCAA side has surpassed the threshold of 40 programs, just real briefly, without getting too inside baseball, for those folks that are curious, how long does that process take, and when could we anticipate the first official NCAA championship on the varsity side?
Yeah, it is an intricate process that we will get into as part of this conversation. What will have to happen in 2023 nationals for obviously NCAA varsity that we're talking about here is that we need to have 40 programs which completed 4 events with at least one other varsity program where 3 athletes crossed the finish line. If we can validate that at the end of this next season, it will start the process by the NCAA to have the Committee on Women's Athletics to start their assessment. It will then go, if we get the green light, to Legislative Council review, which is more of the presidents and others that have a chance to assess through their scorecard what it is that triathlon is doing and has done. If we get the green light from them, it goes to divisional level, which would be Division 1, 2, and 3. And each of those decision makers, usually that's the ADs and others, will then either give us a pass or fail grade as well. And it'll close with the NCAA championship division assessing and evaluating our ability to be a championship sport. They'll build the budget, get budget approved, and hopefully the following year they'll have a chance to start the program under their control with qualification processes and other things we set up still in play. That's going to be our push, is don't change what's worked, what is working. And so that will be the process. It can take up to 2 years or more for that to happen. So let's say this happens in 2023. 2025 would be our goal date for us to have the first NCAA championship, but more than likely, it probably would end up being 2026 because we don't control the timelines and the meeting dates for these particular groups to come together. And we just have to buy our time and continue to do everything we have to do to make this sport very attractive to them.
Sounds like there's still a bit of work to do. We need to keep the programs that are currently on board healthy and viable, and build up some rosters and make sure that we check those boxes. But it's exciting.
You know, it is exciting. Matter of fact, I love the idea of NCAA being NCAA championship because I believe that when that happens, you're going to have a lot of these programs, a lot of these institutions that have been sitting back, waiting for that to happen, are going to say, we're ready. Now we're going to make that commitment. And they don't have to make that commitment with a lot of dollars because we have grant funding that we offer to them as seed money offset for their costs in that first year or multiple years. And we have equipment support that we provide. So I don't think the lift is going to be that big of a lift for those new institutions. I think the other thing that's going to happen is the exposure, the press, the athlete quality level of time served in the sport prior to getting to the collegiate level is going to be much greater on a global scale. So I'm excited, and I hope it's not 3 years. I hope it's 2 years from this coming November, this next November. But we'll see, and we'll do everything we can, like you said, to make sure that we're ready.
If any athletic directors or SWA should stumble across this video and want to reach out to you, there's still some resources out there, it sounds like, for them to launch a program.
Yeah, there is. Matter of fact, when we start talking about grant money, we've spent $3.5 million on this program. And we've got more grant money that we just received approval to disseminate this coming year to programs that have interest. And we have more and more partners coming on board. And we have other vendors that are stepping up saying, we want to be engaged. Because the word that we're getting close is out there. And so companies and groups, our board included, our staff included, are excited and ready for that to happen. So yes, to your point, we're going to continue to build out these great programs. We have a lot of things we're doing right now. We're going to continue to advocate for how important it is to look at a student athlete that has a 3.5 average GPA that's making an impact in the classroom as much as it is on the field of play, and to continue to advocate for why this sport should be the next NCAA sport added by the NCAA.
Well, it's some exciting times. I want to thank you for spending a few minutes here, our first guest on the Spotlight. And our next collegiate championship is coming up this spring, the Collegiate Club Championships. Where's that being hosted this year?
That's going to be Lake Lanier, Georgia. And it's going to be in April, and it's going to be an amazing event. We were there this past year. There are course changes that have just been approved as of today. We hope teams come back, and that, again, is a great opportunity to get to a different part of the country and see some great racing. We'll have 110 clubs there and 1,400 athletes. So looking forward to it.
Fantastic sport, fantastic future. It's exciting. Thanks for all your hard work on it, and thanks for your time today, Tim.
Thank you. Appreciate it. You're a good man. Thanks for doing this.